Oh, what's going on? Lights are on. There's a camera. There's a microphone. We're live. I guess that means we got to let it breathe while we connect Facebook and bring on Instagram. Um, we were debating not going live till this game was over, but since we didn't announce that ahead of time, we didn't want to let you guys down, but we were going back and forth. That's why we're late. We're like, what should we do? Because this is a good game so far, anyway. The last divisional game, Bills and Ravens. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. And Zack, we've got plenty of Broncos topics that we're going to touch on this evening and news. But first things first, your initial reactions to how the divisional round of the playoffs have shaken out so far.
Not surprised Kansas City won. Seems like they always find a way with help or without help. I'd like to see Mahomes not flop as much. It's bad for the sport. But shifting it to the NFC, Chad, the Lions getting upset at home by a rookie quarterback and the defense allowing that many points and Jared Goff turning it over. I thought the Lions loss was the biggest shocker. And I'll say this, as much as we've been pushing Bo Nix for O'Roy, Jaden Daniels right now is in like a class of his own. He's a tremendous player. So I got to give him his flowers.
No doubt. It's one of those where you just tip your cap. That's all you can do. You just go, yeah, dude, they got a real one. He's legit. And even if you didn't have Zach, all the regular season stuff that made him the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, what he's done in the playoffs is solidified, no doubt. And that's okay. Again, I think it was you, Zach, that brought it to my attention, the fact that if you look at the history of the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, you don't see too many Super Bowl winning quarterbacks on that list. In fact, if memory serves, not but one, right? Wasn't it Roethlisberger's the only one?
In recent modern, football history, I think we got to go back like 40 or 50 years to find somebody else. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, both teams have their franchise quarterback. I wish Washington well with Jaden, and we're very happy about Bo in Denver.
I'm gonna pull it up. Now I'm like curious. Okay, so if we go all the way back, let's just say, well, since it began, all right. I'm just going on quarterbacks alone, right? Okay, Dennis Shaw, 1970. Hold on. Hang with me here, peoples. A lot of running backs and receivers the first few decades it existed. All right. Quarterback, you got to be kidding me. In between 1970, Dennis Shaw of the Buffalo Bills winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, the next quarterback to win the award, Zach, no lie, is Ben Roethlisberger in 2004, who, as we know, went on to win a Super Bowl. But after him, you had other quarterbacks like Vince Young, Matt Ryan came so close, Sam Bradford, Cam Newton, close until he ran into the Von Miller buzzsaw. RG3, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud. Only one of those guys, you're right, Zach, to this day, only one quarterback who's won the award has won a Super Bowl. So who knows? Maybe Jaden Daniels is the guy that snaps that streak. But the petty fan in me definitely doesn't want to see him win a Super Bowl this year.
I think the thing is, if you win O'Roy, the next logical expectation would be to win a Super Bowl, and it's too much for a second-year quarterback. We saw the slumping C.J. Stroud this season. He had a big fall off. The entire Houston team really did. I don't think Bo Nix is going to go through that, though, Chad. Him winning O'Roy or not, which he's not going to. I just think he's built differently, and he'll be ascending and not have to go down before he goes back up.
Dude, that Detroit Lions game, though, I was bummed because with the Broncos out, I'm like, well, there's two teams left who have never won a Super Bowl. Or was there more? Well, Lions and Bills, right? So, and I have a harder time rooting for the Bills because they vanquished the Broncos. So I'm like, oh, I'm a Lions guy. Let's go Lions. And it would just be a great story because they've always been a doormat in the NFL. So to see them, I mean, in the Super Bowl era anyway, they were one of the original NFL teams that actually won stuff back in the day. But since the Super Bowl era began, Zach, Detroit Lions, with very few little flares here and there, have been a doormat. I wanted to see him go. To collapse like that and Goff turn it over like he did. And as you mentioned, the defense just could not stop Jaden Daniels. It was a bummer.
That's the thing with Detroit. If you follow them, ever since they lost Aiden Hutchinson about mid-season, they haven't been the same on defense. Aaron Glenn over there did a tremendous job, but you can only patch that side of the ball up for so long before it gets exposed. And that was so shocking to me, was a rookie quarterback on the road in a playoff game was the one to expose that. Tip of the hat to Cliff Kingsbury as well in Washington, Chad, doing a tremendous job with Jaden Daniels. That was a tongue twister.
No doubt. No doubt. He's just one of those guys, you talk about it a lot, the Wade Phillips effect, guys who just probably aren't meant to be NFL head coaches, but can just kick ass as coordinators. And Kingsbury's one of those guys, but he needs the right quarterback to really thrive. And he obviously got his guy in Jaden Daniels. So that program, Zach, looks like it's going to be a force to be reckoned with for the foreseeable future in the NFC East.
Kingsbury, I think, will eventually get another head coaching shot. So I think a matter of when and not if. And we'll see how Jaden does. I don't think he's a product of Cliff Kingsbury's system, but it's like Jared Goff. He's going to lose Ben Johnson in Detroit. We'll see how he does going forward. It's always interesting to me.
Well, plus Kingsbury, he's young. He's only 45. So he's got, just like Sean Payton talking about Bo Nix in the future, we've got it all in front of us now. He's still got it all in front of him in terms of the future. But it's kind of interesting. You look at Dan Quinn and his history as a head coach and the offensive coordinators he has hired, having Kyle Shanahan, the collapse in the Super Bowl notwithstanding, go on to do great things as a head coach. Here's in year one anyway, Kingsbury as his OC doing good things. Kind of interesting. But speaking of coaching, Zach, you and I, of course, last we were on the mic was Thursday evening. And by the way, Papa Bear, good evening. Right back at you, big dog. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for dropping a super chat on a night that I know everybody, even if they're listening to us live right now, they're keeping one eye on this game, just like we are. It is a good game so far anyway, but thank you, brother. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Let's go, Bo. Hashtag God bless the USA. Right back at you, big dog. Thank you, pal. It's so good to see you. Max Rio up in Canada checking in. Proven Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is, in fact, a state of being. He says, evening Broncos country, hashtag MHH for life. And then we have here Taylor Christensen jumping in. Thank you, bro. He says, unacceptable KC block. So not surprised about the firing. What do you guys think about trading up for Travis Hunter? If not, what about Bo's brother, Tez Johnson, round 3? So let's scratch the surface here. We'll talk more about the other two things you have there, Taylor. But first things first, Zach, the Broncos on Friday morning handed Ben Kotwica his walking papers, the special teams coordinator, which is interesting because I recall when Sean Payton was coming out of his first year as Broncos head coach, one of the questions he fielded in his end of season presser was, do you anticipate any coaching changes? And he was like, well, no. And really, there wasn't anything major other than Christian Parker left and a few things. But this year, it wasn't even a topic that was broached outside of before the end of season presser, people asking about Vance Joseph. And then 2 days later, Zach, to see one of his coordinators fired. Was it really retribution, you think, for the KC block kick? Because is that on the coordinator or is that on the guy teaching blocking technique, a.k.a. Zach Strief?
There was that, and there was also the penalty in the second Chargers game with Tremont Smith. And I didn't think, though, Chad, those two gaffes would cause a firing for the coordinator. I thought overall the special teams has been such a breath of fresh air the last couple of years under Sean Payton compared to what it used to be under the Tom McMahons of the world. They have their gaffes and they have their mistakes here and there, but I thought they were a pretty buttoned up unit. I do wonder, though, Mike Westhoff left midseason, and then Ben Kotwica was left to his own devices on special teams. Did that expose him to Sean Payton when he was left alone? Did Sean Payton want to bring in his own guy, and Darren Rizzi, the former interim Saints head coach? We don't know. We'll find out soon enough. But I was definitely surprised when I heard about the firing.
I'm trying to remember. Pardon me. Do you recall when Westhoff stepped down? Mike Westhoff. Hold on.
It was
steps down.
Around mid-season.
Our article. That was November 13th. Okay. All right. So that's actually, it was November 12th that we reported it on a Zack Kelberman article. So now let me just do one last little piece of research here. Go to Denver Broncos schedule just for craps and gigs. I'm trying to remind myself when that Chiefs game was. He stepped down, Zach, 2 days after the block kick.
Mm.
We're not big believers in coincidence on this podcast, and we didn't connect those dots at the time. Just food for thought, kind of interesting, but a lot of the insiders reporting on the firing of Kotwica mentioned in the same breath that block kick at Arrowhead, Zach.
Yeah, you could even take it a step further. Sean Payton said after the Bills lost that if they would have got past that game, they felt really confident about the next one, which would have been at Kansas City. Now, they lost on the block kick in the first game. The second game, they played backups. Knowing Sean Payton, Chad, and how it stuck in his craw, I think he never forgot about that loss, and he wanted to, like you said, exact retribution on the only person that you can do it, and that would be the special teams coordinator. That's a stretch. That's our speculation, but it wouldn't surprise me knowing how Payton operates.
It wouldn't surprise me, guys, if this move with Kotwica, I mean, a hiring is going to happen. We will figure out. It's probably going to be the what's his name?
Rizzy.
Thank you. From the Saints, I would guess. But Zach, we still don't know if Vance Joseph is going to be sticking around. Just kind of then rumors. Nothing specific post Bills loss, but just rumors about Jim Leonard's upward mobility and what opportunities might await him both at the college ranks and the NFL. What can you foresee, or what do you foresee, I should say, changing, if anything else, besides the hire of the new special teams coordinator with this Broncos coaching staff?
You could look at the tight ends coach. You could look at the running backs coach. I'm just looking at underperforming positional groups, and those definitely were two ones. I don't know that Sean's going to make any more changes. He would have to, obviously, if VJ gets hired as a head coach, but I don't think it's going to happen this cycle, Chad. I think VJ is going to return for another year on a short leash, hopefully, knowing that Jim Leonard is going to be in the background or whoever else Sean Payton could bring in. I don't really see anything else happening, but then again, I didn't see Kotwica getting fired either.
True. Taylor, we'll come back to your other questions here in a moment while we're still on the subject of the coaches. George says, hello, guys, and thank you for the stars, big dog. He says, if you could get your DC, who do you go for? Broncos for life, MHH for life. Hit the thumbs up. Yes, indeed, guys. Thank you for that reminder, George, in case you guys tune us out at the end of every show and Zach beseeches you to hit the like button. It helps us out so much when you do. So please hit that like button. But Zach, this is probably a better answer for you because I'm happy with VJ as the coordinator, whereas maybe you have a little bit more of a aftertaste here of, you probably be a little more open to changing, and maybe you have something in mind.
I don't want to change for the sake of change. If that's the way that Sean Payton feels the team should go, then I support that move. Listen, I think VJ is a good coach. I'll say it again. He knows more about football than I'll ever know in my life in 10 lifetimes, Chad. And he's a natural leader of men. He galvanizes that side of the ball. They do play hard for him. There's just a couple schematic things, even going back to 2017, when he was the head coach, that I just don't like. Some of the groups that tend to underperform under his guidance, like inside linebacker, for example, they were just exposed over the second half of the season. If he can fix that, what exposed them, I'm happy with VJ. I'm just worried that those are going to be shown to the surface again in year 3.
Fair. George, thank you again, big dog. And speaking of dogs, guys, we got to talk to you about Underdog Fantasy, which is, of course, if I can find the code here to give you the nice scratch and sniff effect. It is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while enjoying sports. And as these NFL playoffs march ahead, you want to join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog, including your boys here, your football priests. With their pick'em game, you can win money by making entries with your favorite players. You compete against other players simply by selecting higher or lower on a given player's stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Turn every touchdown that you watch in the playoffs into a win with Underdog.
And with their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Every dog deserves a second chance, right? And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
I don't know, Bucky. What do you think? Do you deserve second chances? My doggy's sitting right here. I think he does, just like we all do. So download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
You know what I'm realizing, Zach, is I put the eye line of my office television too high. I mounted the thing, the arm, it kind of swings off the wall, and I mounted it too high. I should have put it like at least a foot lower. It would have looked weird in situ. This is such a pretentious. To the person who walks in the office, it would look weird to have a TV popping off of a wall basically at like breast level, which is what I'm talking about. But it would go from this. This is me checking the score, right? While we're talking to this. You wouldn't even be able to tell I'm not like semi close to camera. But, you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda. You live, you learn. What are you going to do? Leroy, what's up, bro? Facebook, one of our OGs on Facebook jumping in saying, Mile High Salute, guys. As much as I love Sean Payton, I think the game has gone behind him, and I think he should pass the torch and let someone else call plays. But that's a pipe dream. Yes, it is. $18 million a year, and his ego wouldn't allow him to do so. Go Broncos, buck him. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. I disagree with you that it's past him, but friends can disagree, Leroy. And even if I was in agreement with you, I can definitely tell you which way the wind blows. And Sean Payton, he's too much of a control freak. That's his specialty, Zach, is offense.
There's also so much, Leroy, and I get the frustration with how Sean Payton called his games. I complain about it almost every Gut Reaction podcast, but we don't know everything going on behind the scenes until we know. Like, for example, Bo Nix played the last however many games of the season with fractures in his back, and we were getting on Sean Payton for not running Bo Nix more. That's probably why, and not expose him to further injury with his spinal column. So, yeah, there's definite warts of Sean Payton's game. I still think he's a good coach. I still think he can scheme open players. And he coached a rookie quarterback who was considered a second-round talent into the playoffs in year one. I think he's doing very well still.
Yeah, thank you, Leroy. I appreciate you, buddy. Shouts to Big Earn. Good to see you, my friend. Broncos country only. He says, referees change the outcome of every Chiefs game. Yeah, I wish it was a unjustified trope or cliche, Zach, but you see the memes for a reason. And now, like, I saw some pretty ridiculous AI memes of a post game of Patrick Mahomes and the refs and stuff. It kind of made me chuckle. Trading jerseys, you know, he's got a ref's stripes and the ref has a Mahomes jersey, you know, like the players.
When I saw they were trading more than jerseys.
Yeah, I saw that one too. That was kind of funny. But it's just the way it is, dude. Like the great players get the calls, and I don't recall Peyton Manning, Zach, you know, going back to the most recent epoch of Broncos canon. I don't recall Peyton Manning being near the flopper that Mahomes obviously is. Like, there are times, Zach, when Mahomes takes it to like an NBA level of flopping to get the call. But I am old enough to recall we got a lot of breaks because Peyton Manning was Peyton Manning. And even if he wasn't flopping, he'd cry to the refs and they'd hear him. You know, they'd pick up flags or they'd throw flags. Like, you know, that's what happens, Zach, when you have a superstar and one of the faces of the league. These refs, they protect him, and I hate it because it's Mahomes. But let's hope maybe Bo Nix becomes one of those same type of guys.
We hate it, I think, a little more because Mahomes is our divisional rival, but I would still hate it regardless. Football is not soccer. Football is not basketball, like you said, Chad. You shouldn't be able to flop in such a physical sport. And that's what Mahomes does now. He runs and then he kind of pulls up and then continues going and draws a flag because defenders can't stop their forward motion. It's literal physics, and you're putting defenses at a disadvantage. You're right, though. I mean, that's how it is for quarterbacks of that stature, and we can only hope that Bo gets the same type of treatment going forward.
Bringing it back here to this Taylor question about trading up for Travis Hunter. Now, that Sports Illustrated event I went to week before last, he was awarded the breakout star of the year award, and so I got to spend time there with him and see him talk and see him do his thing. And obviously, we watched Zach, his insane season, won the Heisman, all that great stuff at CU. But is he of a caliber where I'm asking the question, I'm not loading the question, okay? But with the Broncos sitting at 20, do you see him being a franchise-changing type of guy that you would justify moving up in the draft? Because you'd have to get top 4 probably, if not higher, to secure a Travis Hunter.
I think he's a franchise-changing guy, just not for the Broncos franchise. They're just not in that place right now where they need to move up 15 spots and give up multiple future first-round picks and players. They've been there, done that the last few years with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. They finally have a full war chest of their own picks. They're sitting at a spot where they can grab maybe a Tyler Warren, maybe an Ashton if he does fall there, which is looking unlikely. They don't have to move up, Chad. And if you're talking about flipping picks, I'd rather flip them, and we might disagree here, for a proven NFL talent. So if the Broncos want to start going into their draft compensation, if you want to trade for Garrett Wilson, at least you'd be getting a known quantity. Travis Hunter, for as good as he was in college, he's going to be an unknown quantity in the NFL.
My beef with trading up or trading a first round pick is, I know a good chunk of it, Zach, if I'm being perfectly rational and honest, is the recency bias / trauma of being spectators for 2 straight drafts in the first round because of the Russ trade and all that. But I'm also reminded that as a GM of the Denver Broncos, George Payton has made 2 first-round picks. Both were foundational, transformational in Patrick Surtain and Bo Nix. And then you look at in 2022, Nick Bonito, transformational. If what we saw this year is the new status quo for Nick Bonito, it wasn't a first-round pick, but his first pick of that draft turned out to be a linchpin guy. I'm trying to remember what happened in 23, Zach. What was 23? Oh, that was Mims. That was Mims. I'm saying the first pick they made.
Oh, yeah. Second round was Mims.
All pro. So every time George Payton's first pick in the draft, and, like with Garrett Wilson, I've seen some trade proposals. I mean, we don't really know what these talks might look like, but where it's a first and a second to get him out of New York. It's like, dude, with this GM, I'm going to take my chances that he's going to find with that first pick in his draft this year, even at number 20, another foundational guy.
And they seem to be more inclined to make that big move up in the second or third round, like they did with Troy Franklin, they did with Marvin Mims. They don't really do that in the first round. They might move up like 2 spots if they fall in love with Tyler Warren, for example, 3 spots, handful. I don't think they're going to go up to the top 5. It's not the year to do it, Taylor. They got their franchise quarterback. All they have to do now is build around him, and you can build around him by staying at 20 or even moving down, Chad, and collecting more draft picks for George Payton.
And then last thing here, because for our Super Chat superstars, we try to get to every topic question that you bring up. Going after Tez Johnson, Bo's adopted brother, who, the Oregon receiver in the 3rd round. I think 3rd round's a little rich for him for what it's worth. I mean, maybe he ends up going sooner. I don't know. I could be tripping, but I see him as you could probably get him later in the draft. Now, granted, Bo wasn't there, Zach, this past season, but with, what's his name? Dylan. What was the Oregon kid's name, the quarterback? Hold on. Now this is going to bug me. Hold on. Dylan Gabriel. All right. Tez Johnson. He still caught nearly the same number of balls that he did with his bro the year prior, 83 compared to 86 balls with Bo, but it was for a much lower per yards per catch clip. He finished with just shy of 900 yards, where with Bo he finished just shy of 12, and scored 10 touchdowns both seasons at Oregon. Now that's his two bites at the Division I, Pac-12, Apple, and I guess Big Ten this year. He acquitted himself well. That's from Zach after 3 years in the Sun Belt. But would you want to see? Because look, I think the book is it's still jury's still out on the Troy Franklin Bo Nix future and how it might coalesce, or whether it busts, or I don't know. But it wasn't a resounding success year one, keeping those two together. And I also think back to last thing that I'm serving it back to you, Drew Lock going to bat for Albert Okwuegbunam and all that stuff. It didn't really pan out. That being said, your thoughts for our boy here, Taylor.
That's why I said a few minutes earlier, it's the NFL is a much different animal than college. I mean, you can look great, but you're still an unknown quantity. And we like the Troy Franklin move because of the familiarity with Bo Nix, but that was college. It didn't translate over into the NFL like we all thought. If Johnson's on the board and Sean Payton wants him, George Payton wants him, it's feasible, Bo Nix goes to bat for him, go ahead, use a flyer. I'm not making any, grand trade ups, though, for Tez Johnson.
Can I just say James Cook is a freaking animal? His jump cuts and the way he can just stop on a dime is insane. Taylor doubling down on Hunter, saying here with the second super chat, thank you, buddy. Tonight we really need it. He says, Hunter wants to be here, though, guys. He said so in October. Well, yeah, of course. A CU dude campaigning for the Heisman. You stick a mic in his face, he's going to say, yeah, I want to stay in Colorado. But at what cost? I mean, I don't even want to contemplate what it would take to get from 20 into Hunter range in this draft. Like, again, do you want to, what's he going to do that you don't have? And I'm not saying that as like he can't do something. I'm genuinely asking, what boxes does he check? You've already got an all-pro corner. You're going to play him on offense, or you're going to move Riley Moss to safety and let him be your other corner? That's a pretty steep price to pay, Zach, for a number 2 corner. Or you're going to play him on offense. What are you going to do? Where's he going to play on offense? So if there was like a really clear vision for what he was going to do, I'm just honestly, I get it. I wouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth if the Broncos had an opportunity to draft him in a perfect world, but I'm not convinced Denver's the best fit for him, Zach.
The only player in my book that you move up 15 spots for potentially in the first round is a quarterback. And if they didn't do it for a quarterback last year, I just don't see George and Sean Payton doing it for Travis Hunter this year.
Let me acquaint myself better here with some of his hold on. Let me find him. Travis Hunter. There he is. Okay, real quick. I mean, as a wideout this past season, Zach, just for the record, 96 receptions, 1,258 yards, 15 touchdowns. That's some significant production. And then on defense, pardon me, going both ways, 4 interceptions, a forced fumble, 11 pass breakups, like elite corner play. And he just also happens, Zach, to turn in 1,300 receiving yards and double-digit touchdowns. So there's no doubt he's a superstar. Champ Bailey, Deion Sanders were guys that teams kind of flirted with playing them both ways at the league level, at the NFL level. But the NFL likes guys to specialize, Zach. Maybe he's the guy that finally breaks the mold. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If I could see a future where Travis Hunter is kind of pigeonholed into playing one position, and you'd be basically drafting a cornerback with your first round pick, and not only drafting that guy, but trading up and surrendering multiple future picks for, including first rounders. I don't know. This isn't the year for the Broncos to make that move. If they want a receiver in the first round, they can stay at 20 or kick a first rounder to New York, for example, for Garrett Wilson. They don't have to make that blockbuster move, Chad.
Hey, real quick, by the way, David Yunkin bouncing out. Great show, guys. Later, bro. Thanks for being with us for 29 minutes. We appreciate you, big dog. Zach, I want to grab this from Michael Davis, who has a good question, because we were in season before we knew the extent of Bo's back injury. Why did all of a sudden all this great QB design stuff on the run game disappear? I mean, if you look at Zach, I'll pull it up after I serve this over to you. But if you look at his game logs rushing, it does fall off a cliff basically in that from that second Raiders game on, which is where he injured it. So yes, how much did it affect the Sean Payton run pass option play calling? Yes, that's my answer. But I'll pull up some stats to back it up.
It had to have, Michael. It definitely had to factor in. You don't want to risk Bo getting hurt further, or anything with his back, his spinal column. That's serious business. But there's also, I think, a matter in my mind that Sean Payton purposely went out of his way to call more Bo Nix passes or show off Bo Nix or put Nix in a position where if he does well, everyone's going to say, look at Sean Payton's handpicked quarterback playing so well under Sean Payton. But it can't not affect the play calling. It's what Bo did so well in college. He did it so well early on this season. He was the Broncos' leading rusher, Chad, in 3 or 4 games. They lost all of them, but still, it had to have been a contributing factor, Michael, for sure.
Okay, so look at it like this. Most of his runs, weeks 1 through 4, were scrambles. Week 1, 5 carries. Week 2, 4. Week 3 in Tampa, 9 carries. Week 4 against the Jets, 5 carries. Okay, where it really turned a corner into coach-designed running plays at the quarterback position, if you guys remember, it was that New Orleans game. He started pulling out stops we hadn't seen yet so he could get this win in the bag. Bo had a season high 10 carries in that game, 75 yards. Okay. Then 5, then 6, then 3. It steadily starts to trail, Zach. Then you get to that second Raiders game where he only had 1 carry in that game. That's where he injured it. And then from there, 3 carries. He had 8 in that Indy game. But again, almost all these from here on out, 3, 7, 7, and 4, almost all of them, Zach, with only a few exceptions being like the 3rd and ones where he's leaning over, right, were just both scrambling. Had to be the back injury.
And what just occurred to me was in that Baltimore game, Sean Payton dialed up that trick play, the Philly special, where Bo Nix caught that on the goal line and took a pretty big hit from the defender right into his back area. So that's it's pretty telling and tough player, but we never saw Sean Payton really pull out those stops after that. And I guarantee, Michael, it's because of those multiple fractures.
We have Phil McLaughlin in the house with us tonight. Great to see you, bro. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Scott's not with us tonight. He's, if I recall right, he's probably headed back from where he's been, but you'll be seeing him this week. He'll be back in the house. But Phil says, I know it's early, but do you guys plan on going to the draft this year? Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Not sure about that. I mean, the one pro to going this year, Zach, would be that they actually have a first-round pick. But we'll for sure be at the Senior Bowl, probably the Combine. I don't know. The draft, of all the draft events, it's going to the actual draft is actually the least interesting thing for people who cover it because, it's as soon as that draft pick is made, guys like Zach and I, we're locked to a keyboard. Like we're reporting on the pick, we're bringing up the background on the player, like we're going to town. Whereas when you are at the Senior Bowl, for example, you have every single day, unprecedented relative to the way it works around the calendar, access to these prospects, players, coaches. Like you're right there the whole time for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, you kind of take it easy. And then Saturday's the game. And then the Combine, Zach, you're talking, if you want to talk to every single player, you can. So it's just more fun and interesting, and you get more legs out of it by those stops on the pre-draft trail. The draft, I had a good time, Zach, when you and I went with Vegas and in Vegas and got to do some of the fun stuff, hang out with Claudette, hang out with Matt. It was fun. Jose, who covered the Niners and whatnot, but not my favorite thing, to be honest with you.
No, you're right. We were whisked away into a big media workroom, and we were all on our laptops and reporting on it, same as we would do at any other place, Chad. So I agree with you. We've been to the Combine, been to the draft. The Combine and the earlier calendar events were definitely more interesting.
Absolutely. But we'll keep you posted on that, Phil. Appreciate you, big dog. But yeah, and the Senior Bowl, guys, for what it's worth, it's only a week away from today. I'll be headed out east, southeast. We'll have some fun announcements and cool things about the Senior Bowl week. It's going to be a gas. So stay tuned for that. And we will be doing the live streams and the pods that whole week from, pardon me, I'm still getting over this bug, from Mobile. It's going to be a gas. But Zach, we're at about 35 minutes. We're doing pretty good. There's 9 minutes left basically in this game. Buffalo's up 24-19 and Lamar has the ball. You and I haven't been able to pay close attention to the second half of this, but what's your prediction for this divisional round? Who's going on to face the Chiefs in the title game?
I'm rooting for Baltimore on this one, but my gut tells me that Josh Allen at home pulls it out and he'll score again to put it away. As much as I like Lamar Jackson, there's something about the playoffs where he just doesn't show up. And yeah, it's going to be setting up for another Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes showdown in the AFC title game.
Man, both these games today, just brutal conditions, like true NFL January football, baby. Like, you better be okay with falling onto concrete because that's basically what these fields feel like to these poor players. Woo, fumble. Oh, Bills just recovered a massive Mark Andrews fumble. What a bummer. Okay.
Point made.
That could be ball game, dude. That could be ball game. All right. Here is your last call for any burning questions, supers. Zach, before we start winding it down, though, I'm going to take I got to remind myself of some of the things we covered over this weekend here. For what it's worth, this is an interesting topic from Bob Morris. 3 Broncos make over the caps top 100 cut candidate list. Okay. Now, these are 100 players across the NFL that over the cap taps as salary cap possibilities, right? Now, last year of the top 100, just for what it's worth, 38 of them actually were salary cap casualties, okay? Here's who he put the 3 Broncos on this year's list. Defensive end John Franklin Myers, safety PJ Locke, and linebacker Alex Singleton. Zach, of those 3, or how many, if not all, of those 3 do you see being bona fide like thin ice?
PJ, I would not bring back. I mean, he could be a backup special teamer. He does not deserve to be starting. JFM, to me, is a no-brainer you bring back, Chad. I'm not cutting him. I'm restructuring. I'm extending. I'm doing what I have to. He was a force on that defensive line. Singleton, coming off a big injury. I know he's the leader, captain. He's a good tackler, Chad, but pass coverage still lacking. They need that dynamic inside linebacker. Singleton isn't it. Maybe for a 1-year prove it deal, veteran minimum, I would do it, but I'm not rushing to sign Alex Singleton. Put it that way.
Well, but here's the thing is Singleton is under contract. All these guys are under contract. John Franklin Myers is the only one that to me is like, are you kidding me? That's not even like possible, bro. He had 7 sacks and was almost single-handedly responsible for I don't want to take anything away from Malcolm Roach, but that whole unit as a starting trio, Franklin Myers, Jones, and Allen, elevated the second he got there. But I'm with you on a normal cycle. I'd be like, Alex Singleton, it's not looking good for you, dude. Torn ACL, and you're expensive going into this year. If the Broncos, if the 2 starters they had that they relied on after Singleton went down weren't free agents right now, I'd be like almost guaranteed they either restructure him or cut him. But because of that, I almost think that Singleton's safe. Like they don't want to chance it. They'll bring him back, let him finish rehab and get him back in time to start contributing in September-ish. But PJ Locke, this was his only season as a bona fide, like game 1 to the end starter. And it was significantly lackluster. I was kind of bummed that he didn't really pop on that, not extension, but new contract that he got.
I should have articulated it better. I meant if the Broncos cut Singleton, I can't see another team being out there rushing to sign him. He's a very limited player, Chad, and his best bet to probably get playing time is in Denver. But the problem is you have basically the same player in Cody Barton. You have the same player to a lesser extent in Sternad. You need that dynamic 3-down, sideline to sideline, smoke dog type of inside linebacker. It's got to be a priority this offseason.
Okay, so interesting conversations to be had there. The other interesting story is uh, the full slate of Broncos draft picks. Okay, for I almost forgot. When you're looking ahead at the draft picks, I'm going, yeah, I forgot about the Baron Browning 6th-round pick the Broncos got from the Arizona Cardinals, and so what you have, I'll pull this up real fast so everyone can kind of have a visual scratch and sniff here. That's how we like to do it on the MHH podcast. So everyone can follow along. Whoops, that's the wrong one. I need to blow up this one like so. Hang tight with me, y'all. Maybe it's a little easier to see. But we know for sure that the Broncos are picking 20th, right? That's locked in. You had the article for us. NFL locked that in. These other numbers, once you get past the 3rd round, are somewhat projections until we know what the compensatory picks the NFL hands out to all the teams are. So these 189, 195, 204 are projections based on NFL mock draft database and prosportstransactions.com. But the other ones are locked. So the Broncos, Zach, 1st-round pick, number 20 overall, 2nd-round pick, 51 overall, 3rd-round pick, 85, 4th-round pick, 120. So those first 4 picks are all Denver's original picks. The 6th-round pick, the first one, also their original pick. This 6th round, 3 6-rounders is the one they got from Browning, 195, and then 204, which is the last of the wages they got, Zach, from the Okwuegbunam trade. So the Broncos basically have I would say it's a full complement of draft picks, mostly full, I guess, because you only have you don't have a 5th rounder, and no 7th, but you have 3 6. That almost to me makes up for not having a 5 and a 7.
Yeah, and remember, if VJ gets a head coaching job, the Broncos are going to add a 3rd-round pick, another one as well. So they'll be cooking with grease, Chad. And you're crazy, not you, but any Broncos fans crazy if they think that George Payton's going to stick around with all 3 of those 6th-round picks. Those are going to get flipped in some sort of deal, I can tell you now, either to move up during the draft for a player or to trade for an outside NFL veteran player. They're going to have some room to wiggle with, both in terms of the salary cap and the draft picks.
But seriously, when you think about the success George Payton has had as a draft artist since becoming the guy in Denver, right? So hired by John Elway, Joe Ellis, his first draft, 2021. Let me just remind you of the studs he got out of this class. Patrick Surtain, Javonte Williams was on track to being a stud before the injury. Quinn Miners, all-pro. Baron Browning ended up kind of flaming out, but they got something out of him. You even had Jonathan Cooper in this class, okay? That was year 1. Year 2, no 1st-round pick, but he still got Nick Benito and another starter in Luke Wattenberg in that class. All right. Then you have 2023, his first pick is Marvin Mims in the 2nd round, followed by Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, and then a couple role players, J.L. Skinner, Alex Forsyth. And then this past season, Zach, Bo Nix, Jonah Ellis, 5 sacks. Troy Franklin, touchdown in the playoffs. Chris Abrams-Drain, starter as a stud, as a spot starter. Audric Estime, Devon Vele. I mean, I just want this dude to have as many of those arrows in his quiver as possible. And I want to credit you, Zach, before I serve this back. What was that tweet you had pinned for like 3 years? Do you remember what it said?
No, I don't know which one.
Something to the effect of Broncos got it right with George Payton, hiring George Payton, or something like that.
Oh, they hit a grand slam hiring George Payton.
So true.
It is. I mean, people crap on him for the Russell Wilson trade and contract, even though the Broncos ownership group on the latter point kind of meddled in that. But his drafting, his scouting, his acumen has been off the charts. And I don't think he gets enough credit from Broncos fans of how good of a general manager he is. If he were to move on from Denver, Chad, he'd have another job in about 5 minutes, to quote Vic Fangio.
True. Sorry. From String Guy, I really want to see Genty and Bo in the same backfield. And if we can get Loveland in the 2nd round, that would be a dream come true. Yeah, it would be awesome. I mean, in the same sense, Zach, that in any other year, Bo Nix would have been the offensive rookie of the year. In any other year, he would have been the Heisman. It took like a complete fluky of a sensation from Travis Hunter for the Boise State running back to not win the Heisman. I mean, he had a ridiculous season. I mean, in case for people who aren't like super into following the draft and stuff, okay, this dude this past season, Zach, rushed for 2,601 yards and 29 touchdowns and didn't win the Heisman.
It's pretty crazy. I don't think string guy Loveland's going to fall to the second round, but that scenario, both Jeanty and Love, I would be doing cartwheels, and it would be a dream come true. But no matter how they do it, just upgrade the supporting cast around Bo Nix, and we'll all be happy.
Hey, shouts to Pearl. Good to see you. Thank you, my friend, for being with us. Yeah, I'm liking the Bills. I think, honestly, if you if you want to see the Chiefs fail to three-peat, you need the Bills to win this. I just don't think the Ravens have what it takes to go the distance. Like, I don't trust, to your point earlier, Zach, Lamar, he just comes up short for some reason in the playoffs. And that was a knock that every quarterback, with the exception of Tom Brady, okay, lives with that until they don't. Dan Marino, his whole career, couldn't win the big one. Jim Kelly, yeah. But even John Elway was tapped as the quarterback who couldn't win the big one until finally he did, the second to last year before he retired. I'm old enough to remember, Zach, Peyton Manning was tapped as the quarterback that could not win the big one because you had 2000, let's see, it's basically 2000 through 2005, 2000 through 2005. So they would get to the playoffs and just bounce, all the Star Wars numbers from the regular season, to quote their owner, would just dissipate and go up in smoke until finally they got over the hump, 2006, that season, Zach. And they got a little bit lucky in that you had a terrible NFC gauntlet where Rex Grossman's Chicago Bears were the NFC representative in the Super Bowl.
Some quarterbacks just get the yips in the postseason. I don't know what it is, but there's like a mental, psychological block they can't get over, or their team, for that matter, too. It's not just Lamar Jackson. It wasn't him who fumbled the last time. I think it was Mark Andrews. But still, it just seems like it's destined to be Buffalo and KC for yet another round.
A touchdown here effectively ends the game. 4:21 left. Bills are driving after that fumble. It's second and goal. They're up 24-19. Field goal gives Lamar a chance, dude. You got to get a touchdown here if you're the Bills to really ice this thing. Okay, guys, love you. We got a few messages for you, then we're going to dip out.
Another tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your Football Priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important, very, very, that you subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen to that. Hey, String Guy, appreciate you, big dog, reminding everybody, or I should say echoing Zach, hit the like button, guys. Special shout out tonight to the Super Chat superstars and supporters like the Papa Bear, like Max Rio, like Taylor Christensen, George Fox, Phil McLaughlin, and without Mr. Producer here, like fully scouring on the Facebook side, I hope we didn't miss anybody. But if we did, please forgive us. Know that that's not our standard MO, and let us know if we did miss you, and we will make it up to you. Trust on that. But Zach and I, we're back tomorrow night. We'll see how things shake out. Kind of have a little bit of talk about the respective conference title games and see what shakes out by way of Broncos news. We're waiting to find out if Vance Joseph's really going to get another shot this cycle, Zach. It'll be interesting to see, but have a great finish to your weekend, everybody. Great start to your week, and I can't wait to see you again tomorrow.
Absolutely. We will see you tomorrow night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.